Thanks for tuning in, everyone, to the Garage Chronicles with Grant. This is episode 2 of the Camaro build. I'm just going to throw the motor together here real quick for a dry fit. I don't have torque converter bolts, so this is more of just bolting it together and seeing how well it slides in with the new motor mounts I picked up for it. There's quite a big difference between the small block and the big block motor mounts. There it is all together, probably somewhere around 700 or 800 pounds. It's just an absolute beast. Yeah, I couldn't pass up an opportunity to put the engine in the car without the front end on. This is so much easier, especially given the size of this thing. And having the car up on the hoist by about a foot, helps with all the administration underneath the car as well. So this was a welcome bonus. So one thing I learned in doing this swap is that the difference between the 350 or the small block Chevy, the straight six, and the big block is this gap right here. It's about 1.75 inches or so, maybe about 2 inches by the time you get to actually where the bolt goes through. And there's about an inch of separation there. So the motor actually moves to the passenger side by about an inch. And what I'm showing you here with my ugly little dirty finger is the fact that the alignment of those two bolts on the passenger side is much different than that on the driver's side. Alright, so another part of this video we did the Ride Tech Subframe connectors. So this car has full Ride Tech suspension in it, a tubular A-arms in the front, and it's also got the link suspension in the back. It looks like a 4-link, but it's really not. It's just a single bar link on the bottom. You'll see me there taking the bolt out. So originally the suspension was put in the car, but the subframe connectors were not, so I have to go back and reinstall them. So fortunately, because everything was out, it's not that hard. But they fit in beautifully. If you haven't used RideTech stuff before, I highly recommend it. It's really high quality. All the fittings are anodized or zinc plated, and everything fits just like you'd expect. So RideTech does a really good job of producing instructions. The problem is they're in black and white and they're very detailed, but they're a little hard to see. So once you get the parts laid out on the floor and you have a good hard look at them, you can see where everything goes. And they're very comprehensive with all the torque specs and everything. So because this car didn't have the leaf springs in the front, I had to pull the perch down and take this zinc plated nut and go through it. So there it is, they're completed. So what I figured is I have to dry fit it once. So what I've done here, I just throw the nut back on the other side, and then I have to push it into place. And then I'm met with a couple of surprises, unfortunately. So here I am pushing this whole assembly back up in, and of course you give it a couple of whacks with a soft hammer and it pushes it in the front where the subframe connector is for the front of the car. But what happens is, because the new hardware is thicker than the original factory hardware, and I think all the metal pieces are probably a little more substantial with this kit too, you run into some problems trying to fit it up in that pocket. So then I have to go with the old pneumatic solution right here. So there's a little area there, but a couple of good whacks with my air chisel with a flat bit on the end of it knocks the area in pretty good. Well, I only need to get about a 1/16 of an inch, so it worked really well. And then of course, then it just pops right in. It's actually very, very quick to throw the thing back in. A couple nuts and bolts, and we're back in business. And there's three bolts that hold this forward carrier in, and I think they torque to 55 foot-pounds. So you just go around. I did them at 35 the first time around, then 55 to finish off. So they're pretty easy to get to as well. Earlier, this didn't have leaf springs in it when I got the car, so it's a little bit of a different process. I'm throwing the subframe connectors in at this point. So I had to take this bar off. This is the bottom link bar that connects the axle to the forward location for the spring perch. And it needs a little bit of finagling to get it to line up. I ended up taking a big bar and just sort of moving the axle back just to get the nut and bolt in place. It slid together pretty easily after that. And the last part is fastening the 8 nuts at the front of the car. There are 5/16 holes, and it's just some zinc plated hardware. There's two on each side and then two on the outside. And you screw those things into 35 foot-pounds, and that ties in along with the body mount bolt. That ties in the subframe connected to the front. It's actually a pretty straightforward installation, and everything fits perfectly. Like I said, the RideTech stuff is really well engineered, and I would recommend it to anyone doing a similar kind of setup on a car like this.